We're going to take a break from talking about rates, ratios, and ratio tables to kind of get us ready for the next skill of proportions by learning about multiplication equations. Multiplication equations involve algebraic concepts because we're going to be using variables with numbers, almost like we did in the first part of the year with our expressions. So this right here is an example of what we did earlier in the year, which is an algebraic expression. And the difference between an algebraic expression and the multiplication equations that we're doing now is that equations will be followed by an equal sign and an answer. So the word phrase we have right here, 12 times the number equals 96, what makes it an equation is that there's equals and an answer. So this is an example of and written out numerically, it would look like this. 12n equals 96. And remember that even though there's no multiplication sign between the 12 and the n, having a number glued together with a variable means that you are multiplying. So now we're going to solve the equation 12 times n equals 96, and we want to solve for the variable n. Typically how we would do these problems is to get the variable by itself. Getting the variable by itself is called isolating the variable, and you do that by performing the inverse operation. We have to do the inverse operation to 12 times n because we have to get rid of this times 12 that we have right here. And the opposite operation of multiplication is division. So we have to do 12 times n, and now we're going to divide it by 12. And we do this because now I have a 12 multiplied by 12 divided by 12. And 12 divided by 12 is really just 1. And 1 times n now is just n. So I got rid of my 12 times n by dividing by 12 because now 12 divided by 12 is just 1. And 1 times n is just n. So we've successfully isolated our variable, but we're not quite finished yet because our equation is not balanced. In order to keep our equation balanced, since I divided by 12 on this side of the equation, I also have to divide by 12 on this side of the equation. So now I have to do 96 divided by 12. And so that gives me 8. So now I know that n equals 8. Because whatever I did on this side of the equation, I divided by 12 here. You have to divide by 12 on the opposite side of the equation with the 96. That will help you find the variable, which is n equals 8. Finally, what you can do to make sure you are right is to substitute your answer, which in this case is 8, in for n of our original equation. So we can write 12 times 8 and see if we get 96. And in this case, since this was a fairly simple multiplication problem, we do get 96 when we multiply 12 times 8. Let's go ahead and try another example using the 3 steps of solving multiplication equations. And the equation that we're going to solve is 14m equals 49. We need to solve for m. So the first step is to isolate the variable by performing the inverse operation. And since we have a number and a variable glued together, this is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we have to divide now by 14. And remember, when you do 14 divided by 14, 14 divided by 14, you get 1. And 1 times m now is just m. So we've successfully isolated our variable. But since we divided the 14m divided by 14, we have to do it on the other side of the equation to keep it balanced. So now we have to solve 49 divided by 14. And off to the side, we'll do this. We'll do 49 divided by 14. And 14 can go into 49 3 times. And 14 times 3 is 42. 49 minus 42 is 7. And we're going to try to get a decimal because you don't really have remainders when you're doing equations. So we're going to make this into a decimal by adding a decimal point here, taking it straight up to our answer, and adding a 0 at the end. And we'll bring a 0 down. And 14 can go into 75 times. 14 times 5 is 70, and we are done. So our answer to that is 3 5/10. And we're going to go ahead and check our answer. So in order to do that, we would do 14 times 3.5. And actually, let's go ahead and write that vertically so we can solve it. 14 times 3.5. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Bring down our 0. 3 times 4 is 12. And 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So we have 0 here, a 9 here, and a 4 here. You move your decimal point over one place, and we have 49.0. So our answer is correct. The value for m is 3 5/10 because 14 times 3 5/10 equals 49. We're going to do another example so that you get more familiar with it, so you're ready to take your Edmodo quizzes. And the next problem is going to be 5j equals 22.5. So if you remember, the first step is to isolate the variable. So in order to do that, we do the inverse operation. So we divide by 5, because 5 divided by 5 will equal 1. And now we have j all by itself. Since we did 5j divided by 5, now we have to do 22.5 divided by 5. And we're going to solve that over here. 22.5 divided by 5. 5 can go into 22 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 22 minus 20 is 2. Don't forget your decimal point. Put it straight up from where it was and bring down the 5. And 5 goes into 25 5 times. And we have solved it. So j equals 4.5. Now in order to check that, we substitute in our value for j in our equation. So we can do 5 times 4.5 and see what it equals. And we're going to go ahead and write that vertically off to the side. 4.5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Put our 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Take the decimal point over one place, and we have 22 5/10 is our answer. So 22 5/10 works out. So our value for j is 4.5, or 4 5/10 is correct. We're going to do one more example on multiplication equations, and then we'll be done. So the last problem, we'll do 9a equals 270. So first thing we have to do, isolate the variable by getting this number away from it. How we do that is to do the inverse operation. So we're going to divide. Since we have 9 times a, we will divide by 9. Opposite of multiplication is division. So then we have 9 divided by 9, which equals 1. And 1 times a is just a. Since we divided by 9 on one side of the equation, we have to divide by 9 on the other side of the equation. So 270 divided by 9, if you need to work it out off to the side. Let's do that. 270 divided by 9. 9 will go into 27 3 times. 9 times 3 is 27. Bring down that next number. Don't forget to do that part. And 9 can go into 0. 0 times. 9 times 0 is 0. And we're done. So the value for A is 30. Now we will substitute in our value for A in our original equation and do 9 times 30 equals 270, hopefully, and we're going to check that off to the side. We're going to do 30 times 9. In our base problem here, we have 9 times 3, which is 27, and we can add our 0 at the end. So since 9 times 30 equals 270, our answer checks out, so our value for A is correct and is 30.